When I retired 5 years ago, I thought peace had finally found me. My mornings began with the scent of jasmine from the garden and the sound of sparrows nesting on the porch roof. I made tea in my chipped blue cup, the one my late husband had given me on our 30th anniversary, and watched the sunlight dance across the floorboards. My daughter, Clara, called occasionally, though not as often as I'd hoped. She was busy, always busy with her career, her marriage, her city life. I didn't mind. I told myself that solitude was a reward, not a punishment. That all. Those years of working double shifts and sacrificing vacations had bought me this quiet little house and the dignity of peace. But peace is fragile, and mine was shattered one Thursday morning with the sound of a diesel engine in the driveway. 81st, I thought the moving truck had taken a wrong turn. The sound of heavy tires crunching my gravel drive made me step out onto the porch, squinting under the bright sun. That's when I saw her, Clara, standing beside a woman I only vaguely recognized from Christmas photos, her wife, Denise. Both of them in sunglasses, arms crossed, wearing matching confident smirks that told me this was no social visit. Behind them, the truck's back door was open, boxes stacked high, labeled kitchen, master bedroom, and living room. My heart tightened. I called out, "What's all this?" trying to laugh, but Clara only said, "Hi, Mom." Surprise. "We're moving in for a while," as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I didn't know whether to hug her or faint. "Moving in?" I repeated, my voice trembling between shock and disbelief. Denise was already walking toward the porch, eyeing my flower pots as if deciding which ones to move. "Yeah," Clara said breezily. "Our lease ended, and the city's too expensive. We need a place to stay for a few months. You've got all this space, and it's not like you're using the extra rooms." She said it as if my home were a storage unit she'd just rented. I forced a smile, though my stomach turned. "Of course," I murmured. "Come in." Because what else could a mother say when her only child arrived with her life packed in 2 boxes? By evening, my peaceful little home had transformed into a construction zone. Denise directed the movers like a foreman, barking orders about where to put furniture. Clara unpacked loudly, filling the living room with the scent of expensive candles that clashed with my old rosewood. My lace curtains were replaced with thick gray drapes before dinner. I stood in the corner, watching decades of my life displaced by their idea of modern comfort. "You don't mind if we redo a few things, right, Mom?" Clara asked, not waiting for an answer. "This place could use some updating." Denise laughed softly. "It's like a museum in here." The words stung, but I swallowed them down. I told myself it was temporary. Just a few months. The next morning, I found Clara's yoga mat spread across my living room floor and Denise typing furiously on a laptop at my dining table. My teapot, my old faithful companion, was shoved to the back of the counter to make room for their coffee machine. "Mom, you really should switch to oat milk," Clara said without looking up. "Dairy's terrible for your age," Denise added. "We'll do the groceries from now on. You can reimburse us later." Reimburse them for my own food. I smiled tightly and retreated to my garden, where the air still felt mine. But even there, I heard them laughing through the open window, joking about boomer decor and vintage smells. My throat burned, but I stayed quiet. For now, days turned into weeks, and every inch of my house began to feel foreign. They replaced my family photos with minimalist art. My husband's recliner was moved to the garage for space. The guest room, my sewing room, became their office. I wasn't allowed to touch anything without a comment. "You should rest, Mom," Clara would say. "You're retired. Let us handle things." But handling things meant erasing me one drawer at a time. I started eating meals alone on the porch, pretending I preferred it that way. The TV was always tuned to their shows. Even my cat, Muffin, hid under the bed when they argued about lighting fixtures. I told myself again and again that love means patience. But patience, I was learning, has limits. One Sunday morning, I came down early and found Denise in my kitchen, scrolling on her phone. "Morning," I said softly. She didn't look up. Clara's still asleep, she muttered. Then added, we need to talk about property taxes. My stomach dropped. What about them? I asked. Denise shrugged. This place must cost a fortune to maintain. We were thinking it'd be smart to sell, split the money, and get something smaller. You don't really need a whole house. My hands trembled as I gripped the counter. This is my home, I whispered. Your father and I exactly, she interrupted. It's too much for you now. Let us handle it. She smiled sweetly. I didn't respond, but something inside me cracked that day, a silent fissure spreading through my chest. That evening, Clara brought it up again over dinner, pretending it was casual conversation. Mom, you'd be so much happier in a nice apartment closer to us. Imagine not worrying about maintenance or repairs. I could see Denise watching me, waiting for my reaction. I forced a small laugh. I'm fine here, I said. This house keeps me company. Clara frowned. You're being stubborn. You always have been. Her tone cut sharper than I expected. I looked down at my plate, pushing the peas around. They'd forgotten who I was, the woman who worked 2 jobs to send Clara to college, who built this home brick by brick after her father died. I wasn't fragile. I was simply quiet. There's a difference. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered the hallway, running my fingers along the wallpaper Clara once helped me choose when she was 10. I overheard faint voices from their room, Clara and Denise whispering. My name came up, followed by muffled laughter. I pressed my ear closer. Once we get her to agree, Denise said, we can list it fast. The market's hot. Clara murmured something about not needing to tell her everything yet. My breath caught. They weren't just staying temporarily. They were planning to take my house, my home. The betrayal hit like a storm. I backed away quietly, heart pounding, so hard I could hear it echo down the hall. That was the moment I stopped being confused and started planning. The next morning, I made breakfast as usual: scrambled eggs, toast, the good coffee. Clara yawned her way into the kitchen. You're up early, she said. I couldn't sleep, I replied evenly. Denise joined her, smiling too brightly. We were thinking, she said, maybe we can call a realtor this week? I looked at both of them, smiling gently. My hands didn't shake this time. That's a wonderful idea, I said. Why don't we? Their eyes lit up with surprise, perhaps even relief. But they didn't notice how calm I'd become or how my phone was already sitting on the counter beside me. They didn't realize that in that moment, their little game had ended. I already knew my next call wouldn't be to a realtor but to my lawyer. After they left for their morning errands, I sat at my kitchen table and opened the old walnut drawer where I kept important papers: the deed, my husband's will, the notarized trust documents we'd updated 5 years before he passed. My fingers brushed over the embossed seal. Everything from the house to the land was in my name alone. He'd insisted on it after his first heart attack. In case anything happens to me, he'd said, I want you secure. I'd never thought I'd need to defend that security from my own child. As I stared at the papers, a mixture of grief and clarity settled over me. I wasn't helpless. I had leverage. And I was done pretending not to see the truth. I called my lawyer, Mr. Patel, the same man who'd handled our estate planning. His warm, steady voice hadn't changed. Mrs. Grant, how are you enjoying retirement? I took a deep breath. Mr. Patel, I think I may have a situation. I explained everything: the sudden move-in, the disrespect, and now the talk of selling my home. He listened quietly, then said, You've done the right thing by calling me. Don't confront them yet. Let's make sure your rights are airtight. He promised to visit the next day with updated documents and something he called protective paperwork. When I hung up, I felt lighter. Not happy. Not yet. But grounded. For the first time in weeks, I was no longer just surviving in my own house. I was preparing to take it back. That evening, Clara and Denise returned with shopping bags and fast food. We picked up dinner for you, Clara announced, tossing me a greasy paper bag like it was a gift. You shouldn't be cooking all the time, Denise chimed in, We also bought some new bedding. The guest room needs a refresh. The guest room, my sewing room. I smiled politely and thanked them, my stomach churning at their casual dominance. You girls go ahead, I said softly. I'll eat later. I watched them settle into my living room, their laughter echoing against the walls that used to hold quiet memories. They thought they were winning, but I was already 10 steps ahead. That night, I sat in bed rereading old letters from my husband. His handwriting, firm yet gentle, danced across yellowed paper. Promise me you'll never let anyone take advantage of your kindness. It's your greatest strength but also your greatest risk. Tears welled up. I had let Clara's need for control blind me to the slow erosion of respect. But grief transforms people, and I realized mine was finally turning into resolve. I whispered to his photograph on my nightstand, "You were right, dear. It's time I protect what's left of us." Morning came with Mr. Patel's knock. I met him outside before the others woke. He handed me a folder and spoke quietly. "I've updated your estate protection file. This ensures no one can sell or transfer the property without your written consent. Also, if they try to intimidate you, you have every legal right to evict them." His eyes softened. "You don't need to tolerate disrespect in your own home." I nodded, clutching the folder. "I'll handle it carefully," I said. He smiled knowingly. "I'm sure you will, Mrs. Grant. You always have." When he left, I tucked the papers in a locked drawer and brewed myself tea. The calm before a storm I now intended to control. By afternoon, Clara stormed into the kitchen holding her phone. "Mom, why did a lawyer call you?" she demanded. My heart skipped, but I kept my tone light. "Routine estate checkup. You know, old people paperwork." She frowned. "That's weird timing." Denise joined her, suspicion flickering across her face. "You're not changing anything, are you?" I smiled serenely. "Of course not, dear. You said we're a family, didn't you?" My calm unnerved them. I could see it. They exchanged glances, unsure if I was bluffing or simply outsmarting them. For the first time, I enjoyed their discomfort. Let them wonder. Let them sweat. The following days became a silent war. They'd whisper in corners. I'd walk in and smile, watching their conversations die mid-sentence. They'd rearrange furniture. I'd move it back without a word. Denise started keeping the Wi-Fi password from me. I installed my own connection. Clara tried to control the mail. I switched my delivery to a P.O. box. Every small battle became a quiet victory. I didn't raise my voice once. They had mistaken my politeness for weakness, but now they were beginning to see it for what it really was: precision. One night, I overheard Denise on the phone. "We have to move fast. The old lady's lawyer is sniffing around. If she changes the will, we're screwed." My blood went cold. So it wasn't just about the house. They wanted my entire estate. The savings I'd quietly built, the insurance my husband left behind, even the small inheritance set aside for Clara's future children. They wanted it all. I stepped back into the hallway, letting her words burn themselves into my resolve. My hands didn't shake this time. I finally understood. They hadn't come home for love. They'd come for ownership. The next morning, I made a show of gratitude. "Clara," I said sweetly, "I've been thinking. Maybe you're right about simplifying. Let's meet that realtor you mentioned." Her eyes brightened instantly. "Really? You'll consider selling?" "Of course," I smiled, "but only if everything's in proper order." She practically skipped to her phone, calling someone named Tom. As she talked, I slipped away to my study, quietly dialing Mr. Patel. "Go ahead with the legal notice," I whispered, "and file the eviction order under my name." There was a pause, then his calm reply, "Consider it done." My pulse steadied. The trap was set. 2 days later, Clara and Denise returned home, chattering about property listings. When they opened the door, a uniformed officer stood in my hallway beside a clipboard. "Mrs. Grant?" he said. "Yes," I answered calmly. "That's me." He handed me two envelopes. "Eviction notices for unauthorized residents, as per your request." I took them with a nod. The color drained from Clara's face. "Mom, what is this?" she gasped. Denise's voice rose in panic. You can't do this to us. I looked at them both, my daughter and the woman she'd let manipulate her, and said quietly, you've mistaken my silence for surrender. But this house has one owner, and she's standing right here. For a long, breathless moment, no one spoke. Clara's eyes filled with disbelief, darting between the officer and me. Mom, you're overreacting, she stammered. We're family. You can't just. I raised a hand, calm and steady. I asked you to respect my home. You turned it into a battleground. I gave you comfort, and you treated me like a guest in my own house. This isn't anger, Clara. This is consequence. Denise's jaw clenched. You'll regret this, she hissed, but her voice cracked under the weight of panic. The officer cleared his throat politely. You have 48 hours to vacate, ma'am, he said to them. The word ma'am hung in the air like a verdict. They had lost control and they knew it. That night, I sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and crimson. Inside, I could hear them packing hastily, whispering harsh words to each other. For once, I didn't feel guilt. I felt peace, the kind that comes when you finally reclaim something sacred. Muffin jumped onto my lap, purring softly, sensing my calm. I whispered to her, it's okay now, sweetheart. We're taking back our home. I thought about all the times I'd silence myself to keep the peace, all the small humiliations I'd endured under my own roof. There's a strange power in deciding enough is enough. It doesn't roar. It whispers and the world still trembles. Clara came to my room that night, eyes red from crying. She stood in the doorway like a child again. Mom, she said quietly, we didn't mean to hurt you. I looked up from my book, meeting her gaze. Then why did you? She swallowed. Denise said it was practical, that we could help you. I thought, her voice broke. I thought maybe you'd want us here. I closed the book gently. Wanting you here and being controlled by you are very different things. Her face crumpled with shame. I just wanted to feel close again. My voice softened. Then you should have come with love, not boxes. For a long time, she just stood there silent until tears gave her an answer words couldn't. The next day, Denise avoided me entirely, her pride too sharp to bend. She loaded the last of their things into the truck without a word. Clara hugged me before getting in. I'll call you soon, she whispered. I nodded, neither forgiving nor condemning, just letting the moment breathe. Take care of yourself, I said simply. The truck pulled away, leaving behind a silence so pure, it almost hummed. I stepped back into my house, barefoot on the cool wooden floor. The air felt lighter. My husband's chair was still in the garage, waiting. I dragged it back into the living room, set it by the window, and sank into it. For the first time in months, I exhaled without fear. The following week, Mr. Patel came by again. Everything's filed and secured, he told me, placing new documents in my hand. No one can touch your estate without your approval now. I smiled, feeling a quiet gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Patel, not just for the papers but for reminding me I still have a voice. He nodded. It was never gone, Mrs. Grant. It was just waiting for the right moment to be heard. When he left, I poured myself a cup of tea, breathing in the familiar scent of jasmine. The garden outside seemed greener, the sunlight brighter. Maybe it wasn't the world that had changed, just me, remembering my own strength. A few days later, Clara called. I hesitated before answering. Her voice was small, almost fragile. Mom, I'm sorry, she said. Denise and I, we're taking a break. I've been thinking about everything. I stayed silent, letting her speak. You didn't deserve that. I just got caught up in wanting more. I forgot what I already had. I could hear the sincerity in her tone. You're my mother, she whispered, and I love you. My throat tightened. I love you too, Clara, but love needs boundaries. Without them, it turns into something ugly. There was a pause, then a soft, tearful, I understand. Maybe she did. After the call, I sat in the garden, trimming my roses. The air was crisp, the sky a flawless blue. I thought of the girl who once ran barefoot through these same paths, clutching her father's hand. Somewhere along the way, ambition and entitlement had blurred her sense of home. But maybe this was the reset she needed, the same way it had been mine. I whispered into the wind, let her find her way back, but not at the cost of my peace. The wind rustled the leaves as if in agreement. Sometimes, love doesn't mean holding tighter. It means standing firm, so those who've lost themselves can find their reflection in your strength. Weeks passed, and the house settled into a rhythm again. The mornings were quiet, the kettle's whistle marking the start of a peaceful day. I redecorated not to erase their presence, but to reclaim balance. My sewing machine hummed again in the corner, stitching patches of old fabric into something new. Neighbors began visiting more often, commenting on how lively I seemed. "You look younger," Mrs. Albright said with a smile. I laughed softly. "Maybe peace is the best skincare," I joked. But deep down, I knew it wasn't youth I'd regained, it was freedom. One afternoon, as I was tending to the jasmine vines, I saw the mailman approach. Among the letters was an envelope addressed in Claire's handwriting. Inside was a simple note. "Thank you for teaching me that kindness doesn't mean surrender. I'm finding my own place now, my own peace. I love you." Tears blurred my vision, but they weren't of pain this time. I placed the letter on my husband's old desk, beside his photo. "She's learning," I whispered. "She'll be all right." The house, once filled with chaos and tension, now pulsed with quiet gratitude. Justice had been served not through vengeance, but through dignity. Now, when people ask if I live alone, I smile. No, I tell them, I live with my memories, my garden, and my peace. I've learned that boundaries are not walls, they're doors that open only to those who deserve entry. My daughter will visit again one day, I'm sure of it, but this time, we'll meet as equals, not as owner and intruder. I still keep my phone nearby, not out of fear, but as a reminder of the moment I took my life back with one calm, decisive call. And if there's one thing I'll never forget, it's this: never mistake kindness for weakness. Boundaries protect the love that's worth keeping.